And so how did you get involved with this sculpture?
Well, I was thrilled when my friend Pat Scheck called me and said she wanted me to do a memorial sculpture honoring Theodore Roethke. And for several reasons. One, I had long been a fan of his poetry, especially A Child on Top of a Greenhouse, and To My Student Jane, Thrown from a Horse, and others, because they're all really terrific. And the other thing was that I had a shirt-tail acquaintance with Roethke. I never really met him or saw him, but he stayed with good friends of mine, and they knew him very well. And so I thought, what could I do for this man, since I'd never seen him in my life, and very few people even remembered truly what he looked like. So I decided to make a kind of composite of his life, of things that I knew about him. One, for instance, I haven't made this piece yet, but he was a lone Eagle Scout in his own troop. He just invented the thing that he wanted to do, so he did it, and the Boy Scouts of America let him, which is, I think, terrific. And so I decided, because the greenhouse, to me, is a big symbol that Roethke uses a lot in his poetry, and plants and roots and cuttings and so forth, that I had to base part of it on this greenhouse idea. And it wasn't easy to make a thing vertical when it's usually horizontal. But why be bothered with the facts? I just decided I would make a greenhouse, and this is only a wooden model. This will be in steel, square stock, so it'll be very strong. And in it will be all sorts of symbols of Ted's life. Down here, tennis rackets, because he was a very good tennis player and taught it for quite a while. And lots and lots of roots and flowers, and there are flower pots and so forth on these different shelves. And the poem I used was The Child on Top of the Greenhouse, and it ends with all the people pointing up. And so it's going to be in bronze, and it'll be probably out on a shelf, out from the main body of the sculpture. And I have another piece, too, that I made of people pointing, and there they are, pointing up and shouting. And this also will be on this side of the sculpture. Then, rumor has it that Roethke had 3 older women who let him play in the greenhouse. They did the work in the greenhouse, did all the cuttings and plantings and so forth. And this is a little sketch that I made, although I believe that the 3 faces of the women are going to be on this side to better balance the composition, and they also will weigh quite a bit. The head itself being bronze, it'll be hollow, of course, but it'll weigh a lot. Anyway, so I had to have something to balance with the back here, the tennis rackets below, and other things, the Eagle Scout thing I will put in, and books, and sort of a long root, organic root form going through the whole thing. Now, the head itself, can we sort of move over this way a little bit? The head itself is as close as I could come, actually, to making a head of someone I'd never seen. But I chose his happy face rather than one of his gloomy faces. I did quite a bit of research. I wrote to his sister, June Roethke, and other people who would have photographs and so forth. Thank you. And I made this board up, sort of a storyboard. Can you see it with the, is that okay? When he was 52 or so, he died fairly young. And I really didn't want to use this sad old face. I really didn't. And so I went up to one of the happier ones. He was fishing here and looks really happy with his fish. So I'd see what his hand, for instance, this hand is very expressive to me. And I may, in fact, have a hand be part of this. I just haven't decided yet. Because you sort of work on these slowly over time, really over time. And his shoulders are books, and on the back are written the names of his real books that he wrote. And then in the greenhouse will be some books. The flowers I used for the greenhouse came out of my garden, and they're chrysanthemums. And what you do is you take a real chrysanthemum and you dip it into wax, and then you come out with a flower which is sort of abstract, really, because it fills in all the holes. But anyway, there's a shelf on the picture, wherever it is, there it is, that has a whole line of flowers, and they'll sort of screw on and be bolted. We have to bolt everything together rather than weld, because we're using, there, we have a little pot. We're using a mixture of bronze and iron, and they don't normally, you can weld them, but eventually galvanization will make it come up